Agree. You had mentioned earlier about your influences from a teammate standpoint early in your career. Obviously, your first year at Notre Dame in 2017, you were on the same line with Mike McGlinchey and Quenton Nelson and Sam Musford and Alex Bars. All four of them got some starts, got action this year in the NFL. You mentioned obviously in 2017 it was sort of Q and Mike's team, and then 2018 Alex and Sam became the leaders. What are some things? And you can talk about all of them or just kind of part of them. But what are some things that you can point to and say, had I not been able to play with those guys, I'm not sure I would have learned this particular lesson, and when you talk about then applying it to yourself to where you became a two-year captain, because like you were the only captain at your senior year at IMG Academy, correct? You were the only team. So there was already some intangibles there. It's not like you didn't have some of that built in, but what are some things you learned from them early on that allowed you to become an even better player and an even better leader as you got into become where you were the veteran?
Yeah, and it's interesting because they all did everything very well, but I think I kind of learned different things from each of them. I think one thing I learned from Mike, on the football side is like I watched a ton of film with Mike playing tackle. So Mike taught me a whole lot about how to evaluate other teams and how to evaluate yourself and just, what you need to look for when you're trying to get better and when you're trying to scout out other guys. I think Mike was also the most like political of everyone. Whereas like I think Mike is just a very well-spoken guy. He's easy to hold a conversation with. And, those are little things that like, people make people feel comfortable around you because I think, it's easier. And I think he's still better at it than me. But I think I learned how to be that kind of like try to work on those things, being a conversationalist and being able to talk and be able to articulate what I want to say and be brief about it, but really get my point across. Like that's something he taught me a great deal of. And, Q's just in the weight room, his mentality and on the field, his mentality is just absolutely dominant. So whenever I was with him, like that was my standard, I had to be as good as him. And I think after he left, I wanted to fill that void. I wanted to be the guy that other guys look up to. And they're like, man, like that's the standard. I need to work to that. And so that freshman year, something I learned a great deal was like I was the youngest guy, obviously, you had a fifth year and three true seniors. So at that spot, you got to be the guy. You got to earn their trust, and they got to be able to count on you. And the quarterback and running back got to be able to count on you. So I learned quickly that it's about five of us seeing it through one set of eyes and doing like everything we can to protect the quarterback and open up holes in the run game. But you just got to mature quick and play with those guys because I played with great players that year and had to play to their standard or our standard, the Notre Dame O-line standard. So that was something that taught me a lot. And so that experience, I think, just helped me mature fast and learn what I needed to do and try to keep taking as many lessons from those guys as I could over the years.
Now, you were a two-year captain at Notre Dame, and that is rare for someone who did it that wasn't a fifth-year senior. So you were a captain as a junior and then obviously a senior. Was it important to you when you kind of thought about how you went about your business on a daily basis that you had a similar impact on that next generation of Notre Dame offensive linemen like Q and Mike and Alex and Sam had on you when you were a young offensive lineman?
Yeah, absolutely. I think those things that like they taught me, I tried to teach the young guys as much as I can, and it's about those guys wanting to do it and us always being available. It was never a time when someone asked to do something and you told them no, you couldn't. You always made time for those guys because, like you said, like they're the next. At this point now, like those are the guys. Those are the guys that got to play. And I can't wait to watch them develop and play now. It's going to be a blast. But yeah, the way those guys taught us. You had guys like Zach and Nick, Ronnie. Those guys would come back, and when they came back, like during spring ball and their off season to coach us, you notice you're like, man, like these guys are taking time out of their lives to come coach us, and it's a special bond and tradition. I think that I'm excited to be a part of now as an alum.